In this episode, we will take a closer look at the ego and how it operates within our consciousness. Because ego is the main mechanism or hook with which we get trapped in the matrix.
And we have a deal.
I don't want to remember nothing. Nothing. You understand? And I want to be rich. You know, someone important. Like an actor.
Whatever you want, Mr. Regan.
Whatever definition or understanding you have of what the ego is, I ask you to put it to one side for a moment so that we're all on the same page. Many people associate ego with an inflated sense of self, typified by the grandiose self-entitlement of the narcissist, boasting and demanding their way through life. However, the shy recluse, the self-sacrificing mother, or the pious devotee are all equally likely to be under the spell of the ego. Some equate ego with having a solid sense of who we are in the world. It is often said that a healthy ego is necessary for survival, to make our way in the world. But which self do we think we are protecting? And what is this world that we're trying to make our way in? There are very sophisticated techniques to manipulate the matrix and to get what we think we want from it. Religions, whether ancient or new, magic, whether black or white, are all focused on this level. We can work on refining these methods, and they will satisfy the ego for some time, but the price is staying asleep. No matter how great the manifestations appear, they are still only booby prizes in the matrix. For the cohesiveness of these presentations, I wish to use the following definition of ego from author Mike George. Ego is attachment to a false image or belief about yourself. This might seem overly simple, but as we begin to explore it, we discover that it has layer upon layer of nuances. And with any of these concepts, if we really do get it, we will be free from the matrix. The false beliefs and images from the ego are so sophisticated and so deeply entrenched that most people have no idea that they're not real. All these concepts about ourselves, even spiritual ones, are not actually the self. These endless concepts and beliefs form a neural net called an identity. And this neural net becomes a vast web in which the true self becomes trapped.
Who is in the driver's seat when we control our emotions or we respond to our emotions? We know physiologically that nerve cells that fire together wire together. If you practice something over and over again, those nerve cells have a long-term relationship. If you get angry on a daily basis, if you get frustrated on a daily basis, if you suffer on a daily basis, if you give reasons or the victimization in your life, you're rewiring and reintegrating that neural net on a daily basis, and that neural net now has a long-term relationship with all those other nerve cells called an identity.
Another analogy for this creation of the false identity or ego is the building of a castle. From childhood, this castle has been expanding rapidly, with influences from all the adults in our lives, from our teachers, society, religions, all adding bricks, all trying to tell us who we are or should be. You are a sinner. You are a beautiful child. You belong to this religion, to this nation. You are so stupid. You are very spiritual. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Another brick in the wall.
We are constantly labeled, and we learn to label others. Every success and every failure, every acceptance and rejection, they all add or subtract from these ego castles. And we take on the lifetime project to expand and protect these castles. The ego virus infects every aspect of our life and thinking. It morphs and adapts to every stage of our lives. It feeds off everything and everyone. It is strengthened by the desires of the future and the endless repetition of our stories from the past. Through this constant building and strengthening of the ego's castle, we are attempting to feel secure. It's not ego to have a nice home, accomplished children, or to acknowledge to yourself that you are a skilled pianist or good at telling jokes. But it is when we create our identity and self-worth based on these external factors that the trouble begins. Living in a sand castle, even a gold one, naturally makes us feel vulnerable, especially when the sands of change are shifting dramatically. But instead of seeing the castle or the matrix for what it is, the ego mechanism tricks us into working even harder to bolster it up and defend it. By attaching our sense of self to any transitory factor, whether it is as obvious as a six-pack or as subtle as an experience, we remain blind to the real permanent self and blocked from the gifts that such an awareness of the true self brings. Your ego construction will be uniquely yours. You may not care what others think about your appearance, but the acknowledgement of your peers for your scholarly achievements may mean the world to you. You may not care about money, but you may obsess about your spiritual level. In the next few episodes, we will take a closer look at some of the obvious and not so obvious factors that many of us use to compose our false identities, and which is providing the food supply for the ego. By revealing the cheap tricks of the ego, we will learn to be not so easily fooled by them. And if you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit notifications so that you're alerted to the next episode. And if you're interested to begin your inner journey, you may also explore the meditations, Beyond the Matrix meditations that are on the channel. So you can look at them on the playlists. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next episode.